lit. I love going live, baby. Flying without a net here. It's Leap Day, okay? It's a free one. Freeones.com. It's a free one. We got a free day. This is what I'm doing with it. I liquidated it, hyper learning on TikTok. That's basically what this is now. I'm just like synthesizing all the different ways I've been radicalized. I do want to. I'm going to read passages from this book at some point, The Uprising on Poetry and Finance, because I do feel like there's a lot that needs to be said that's just in this book, and I do want to talk about this book today, as well as I want to do my salute to some generational. Oh, rest in peace, Richard Lewis. We got to talk about Richard, my man, Richard. I mean, what can you say? The greatest Buckeye, the greatest Buckeye alumni. Um, what else? Oh yeah, Lynn Haginian also passed away. We got a shout out to My Life, Lynn Haginian, an amazing poet. So I'm going to talk about. Well, I want to do a salute. I do want to. Let me just get into this right away, okay? Because this is something I want to talk about. A salute to generational talents. Because I do talk a lot of trash about how the culture sucks, how everything sucks. But I do. There are certain things in the culture. I mean, maybe they're not like, Da Vinci levels good or Beatles or whatever, Bob Dylan. But there are certain things in the culture that kind of make me uh, that I think have stood the test of time to some degree. So I want to talk about. I want to do a salute to a few things that I feel have, at least like maybe from my generational, that feel like generational. Like generational level. So one of those things is Leonardo DiCaprio. I mean, putting his dating preferences aside, which of course is what he's notorious for, but notorious. But you know, I will say I think that he has been in good movies. He's made friendships with good directors. He's made a point. For somebody of his stature, for somebody who was in, Titanic. Titanic, it's kind of incredible the way that movie kind of just like launched him as sort of like the figurehead heartthrob, and he really he's been the reigning guy. I mean, no one. I mean, Timothy Chalamet is supposed to be the next DiCaprio, but I mean, DiCaprio really, he looks like an Oscar, even though he didn't win one until a few years ago. Um, like he really, I think, did a good job as far as being kind of the number one actor guy. So I want to celebrate. I praise him. That's what Henri Cole used to say in poetry class. I praise him. I praise Leonardo DiCaprio. I mean, I will say that I don't necessarily think, I do think that he's very fun to watch. A lot of his shit is viral, right? Like there's kind of memes and gifs and whatnot. I do want to talk about the death of the GIF. Somehow GIFs just disappeared, which I'm startled by. I thought GIFs were going to take over communication. I thought GIFs were like a more advanced form of communication, and how wrong I was. They've just disappeared from the lexicon entirely. It's crazy. But DiCaprio has a lot of meme kind of. I think that he's an extremely fun to watch, kind of charismatic guy, and he definitely he cares. You can tell he cares, he prepares, and he delivers. And, he's in Wolf of Wall Street, he's in fucking The Revenant or whatever, he's in fucking he's had all these hits with Scorsese, I like Gangs of New York. I mean, he's not necessarily, or The Departed. You want to chop me up and feed me to the poor? Or the Howard Hughes movie I thought was interesting. Who else has he worked with? You can tell he seeks out, fuck. Who else has he worked with? He was in that Adam McKay movie about the environment. That was kind of interesting. That's my example. J. Edgar Hoover, he was in that movie about J. Edgar Hoover, which is a little bit of a stretch. But Clint Eastwood, right, directed that. So he had the Clint Eastwood kind of experience. I think I don't know, you kind of got to talk about Clint Eastwood as a modern American filmmaker, in a sense. He's got this kind of like figurative classic Americana, Norman Rockwell ish type feel. We watched the movie Bird the other night. It's an incredible biopic of Charlie Parker, directed by Clint Eastwood, with Forrest Whitaker. I recommend it. It's online. Uh, it's a good jazz movie. It's all in the clubs and stuff, you know. And he's just getting a swerve on the whole movie. And so, yeah, DiCaprio. I think, you know, I mean, I do think his best performance is Gilbert Grape. Still, I think he did something in that movie that he really has not been able to do, or he hasn't done since. You know, he's Romeo and fucking Juliet. That was a fucking banger ass movie, and fucking Titanic even. He was already sort of, you know, priming us, you know, to be sort of the fucking modern day. Who's that guy? The Sheik. Who is that guy? Oh my god, I can't remember his name. Navarro, not Romo Navarro, somebody else. Who's the fucking guy? The Sheik. You know what I'm saying. It's a lame reference. It's an old reference. It's antique. Okay, so DiCaprio. Yeah, I just want to salute. I want to, you know, I want to I want to just talk about. He's one. You know. And, oh yeah, Quentin Tarantino. Obviously, the other. You know. Of course, they want to work with him because he's box office. You know, like he'll get the budget. Whatever movie they want to make, they'll get the budget. They got DiCaprio. He was in fucking Titanic. You know, he's set up for life. He did it right. You know, is I think a career is as much an artistic work as anything, and sort of knowing how, you know, timing and choreographing like people's imaginations, the public imagination. I mean, when Titanic came out, I mean, Jesus Christ, it was a phenomenon. I was there, believe me. Okay, I saw it in the theater. And it was. I mean, that was the era of Spice Girls and all that kind of stuff. So it was kind of, you know, in sync, kind of, you know. So it was like we were ready for that sort of thing, but teen consumer hysteria. But DiCaprio did a fucking good job. You know, he's a cool guy. I like him. I respect his choices, right? So yeah, the Tarantino fucking. I mean, I'd have to rewatch Django. I didn't necessarily, you know, whatever, but that movie's kind of whatever. But what's the other one? Hollywood, the Hollywood movie, right? I mean, come on. Like, what a perfect movie for Leonardo DiCaprio. What a just a honeymoon for kind of boomer sensibility merged with what I mean is DiCaprio even Gen X. He seems to me to be kind of like non-generational or something. I don't know. He's more interesting, I would say. He has a little bit. I mean, maybe he's no River Phoenix. There's conspiracies out there, you know, obviously on conspiracy, the comment section about they whacked River Phoenix, John Frusciante. Apparently, John Frusciante gave him the hit or whatever, and whacked River Phoenix, and that sort of paved the way. I mean, would DiCaprio have gotten these roles? I mean, River Phoenix was a little bit older, maybe, probably. But they have a similar. I mean, I would say River Phoenix is kind of more interesting. I don't know. He has a kind of a deeper. I don't know. Deeper kind of, you know. He has that grunge era kind of like humanity or something. That like, you know, there's something about DiCaprio that's a little bit, just a little bit, you know, Disney. He was on Growing Pains or whatever the fuck. You know, he was a teen idol, but I think he's used his powers for good as much as possible. You know, I think I think Wolf of Wall Street, what that was really like in this book, he talks about the boom of the 90s was fueled by Prozac and cocaine. And the drugs are what fuel these euphoric kind of stock. You know, fucking Elon Musk is on all kind of drugs. He's microdosing. He's doing acid. He's doing ketamine. You know, he's probably doing blow. I mean, he's the richest guy in the world. Of course he's doing blow. Are you kidding me? Of course that guy's doing blow. Um, if anybody is, I mean, supposedly richest guy in the world, right? It's all bullshit. It's all pro wrestling. It's all fucking rigged. It's all just theatrics. It's all sports entertainment, okay? It's all fake. They're all crisis actors. Okay? They're all fucking agents. They're all plants. They don't want anything real. They're all fucking agents. Matt Damon, Krasinski, all of the Bourne Identity fucking people, even though I've never seen any of those films. Yeah, so anyway, DiCaprio never, I mean, I respect what other movies has he made? I don't know. But you know, he's a likable, he's fun to watch. He's Italian. He kind of carries on that. I'm sure De Niro and Scorsese love that. Apparently, his dad is some kind of underground comics guy in L.A. His dad is like some kind of hipster. His parents seemed like hip people. Often you'll see this with actors. Their parents were super cool, people who kind of lived in New Jersey or wherever, near the coast, near New York, L.A. Maybe they lived in New York. And maybe they never made it, but they sort of procreated and their kid, like, made it. They forced their kid into show business. And so I think DiCaprio's mom, like, you know, would take him to auditions or something. I don't know. Good for him. I mean, Jesus Christ. What a fucking life. Cheers. He did it. I mean, I don't know. He did it. I respect his body of work, right? Throughout the years. I'm trying to think of films he's made outside of the kind of Scorsese, De Niro collaborations, but I don't know. I think he's you know, I don't necessarily know that he's like the greatest. He can kind of do accents, and like I said, he's fun to watch and stuff. He kind of wears his characters kind of lightly, I would say, even though he's very intense. He's kind of got a Nicholson thing. I feel like a lot of DiCaprio is like, he kind of has a little bit of Nicholson face and Nicholson eyebrows. That's why The Departed was kind of such an important whatever, even though the movie was like, maybe, I don't know. I liked it when it came out, but it was very much of that era. There was something that was just like banal, brutal, and kind of mid. Everybody was just stunned. I don't know. The Boston thing was annoying for some reason, you know, but anyway, yeah, I feel like DiCaprio's face, he kind of, you know, he's borrowing from these traditions. He's got kind of a Cagney, Nicholson, but yeah, there, you know, in a culture of things where there's not, you know, that was kind of what the whole Weezer thing was about. Is just like celebrating things that have a duration. Dave Matthews Band. People that have been, well, I don't know. DiCaprio, that's the crazy thing, is he's kind of been the guy, even still. You know, it's not like he's some band that was like, oh, it was cool in the 90s. It's like, he's still kind of relevant, I feel like. I don't know. Another person who I wanted to talk about, is this dry? I mean, is this dry when I'm like, it's not like I rehearse this, but there are certain things that I sort of planned-ish, and I'm going to explore, but I didn't prepare that much. I want to talk about Stone Cold Steve Austin as a folk hero. I think it's TikTok and YouTube. For some reason, they really push wrestling content. Maybe it's because they know deep down I'm susceptible to wrestling content, and it's what I secretly want. What I secretly actually want. Deep in my heart, deep in the recesses of my unconscious. But for some reason, they're pushing a lot of. I've seen all these Randy Orton videos. There's a Kane and Undertaker documentary. You know, the thing that's interesting about Kane and Undertaker is there's been so many chapters in their story. Well, one of the reasons why I like studying wrestling, I've talked about this before, I think, is because it's a corollary to kind of what I'm doing. It's show business. It's showmanship. It's theater. The way that they have built out their industry with the live events, with the tapings. You know, the thing about, they keep it fresh, even though it's kind of ostensibly the same thing. It's this, you know, the squared circle and the entrances. They dress it up as much as they possibly fucking can. And so it's interesting to see that how they create variation, how they create storylines within that very static. You know, that's kind of what makes it theater, right? That's what Aristotle said, right? Is it all happens in one location in real time. You know, in wrestling, that's kind of fucking true. Is it all happens right goddamn there in the ring for pretty much during the show. There's not like it's not like a fucking movie, you know. And the more I'm thinking about it, because it's the other thing I think these things perform well on TikTok. Things like Saturday Night Live skits. You know, it's very interesting. I followed this account. I recommend it to everybody. Huggy does SNL or something like that. It's incredible how many fucking skits there are and how much shit you haven't seen. And so it's, you know, that stuff plays really well on TikTok. I've got kind of a whole new appreciation for the kind of Will Forte. I mean, Maya Rudolph is incredible. That whole era. Kristen Wiig. Of course, Bill Hader. You know, it's like, there's always the thing about Saturday Night Live, right, is it's also a live show from New York, right? This is one of the things about TikTok is there's always like these subconscious reasons why they're showing you this stuff. And so like studying Saturday Night Live, that's a way to be like, okay, you know, let's see what they did. Let's see, you know, not that it's, you know, it's the same thing, but it's like, just how much variation. I mean, Jesus Christ, Robert Downey Jr. was on that fucking show. You know, so on TikTok, they pluck out skits from 1985 or these kind of lost years, the fucking Billy Crystal year, or like, I mean, the Eddie Murphy stuff still kills. But even the early stuff, I mean, I haven't seen hardly any of that. You know, I haven't seen any of the 70s other than what's on the highlight tapes. That's one of the things when you see this person on TikTok has got like tapes of every fucking show. So they edit a lot of the Broadway video or whatever it is, edits the best shit. So you see the same shit over and over again. That's very memorable. Gap Girls or fucking, you know, the Swayze, Chris Farley thing or whatever it is. Wayne, you know, like you see the hits, the best of Will Ferrell, the best, even the old stuff, the best of Dan Aykroyd. You see the kind of same shit that kind of solidifies. But then you go back and you watch the actual shit and it's like some of it's very weird. There's a lot of stuff you can do with sketch comedy, and it's almost like it could be a form of long form narrative television, right? Because there's a lot of Wayne's World skits. There could be a fucking continuity there, and so when it gets regurgitated out the internet again through TikTok or whatever, it's like I don't know. It's very appealing in that sort of short burst of. All TikTok does, it's an interface, right? It's basically just a bunch of crap on YouTube that you would probably not click if you saw, or it's like buried somewhere on YouTube. But it just throws stuff at you, and you go, no, I don't want this, or you know, you watch it until you want to watch the next thing, and they figure out kind of things that they want to communicate to you. You know, like it's amazing the array of different stuff that you see in a short amount of time, and in the way it kind of weaves back. You know, you'll watch Sopranos clips that pop up, so you're seeing the Sopranos, but you're seeing it in this chopped up, you know, when that's how I learned Richard Lewis died, was through fucking TikTok. There was a fucking, you know, and I like Richard Lewis, so I was like, I just thought it was throwing a Richard Lewis video up because I finally found out that I want to be on Richard Lewis Talk. But then it was like, you know, so it's like, it's this stream that new stuff is always coming into, current events are always coming into, politics, you know, there's a lot of re-education maybe that's happening on TikTok as far as the things that the government, the things that the mass media try to teach us in this country versus, you know, how things actually are and blah, blah, blah. But there's also SNL clips from fucking every era you can think of. And stuff you've never seen before, and, you know, it's the same crap, you know, I've gotten into the NBA because of TikTok. It's shown me all these, you know, all the Last Dance videos are incredible. And so that's kind of how I've gotten back into wrestling, is like fucking showing me all these videos about John Cena. This fucking, the most popular thing I've done on TikTok recently is I commented on a wrestling video. It was a video about, I think, about John Cena or something. And the thing about this whole generation of ruthless aggression era guys, Cena, Brock Lesnar, Batista, I forget who else, but they all trained at this place, Ohio Valley Wrestling in Louisville, Kentucky. And I remember reading about it when I was into wrestling on like WrestleZone.com because it was Ohio. So I thought, what's this? Like there's this thing going on in Ohio. It wasn't on TV. It was like their minor league like training thing. But the guy that was the trainer there and sort of the guy that molded the talent was Jim Cornette, right? And I don't know if people know Jim Cornette, but Jim Cornette is the funniest guy on the internet. Follow Jim Cornette on YouTube. He is fucking hilarious. He is really like a regional local voice, and he is one of the best minds in wrestling. And he's behind a lot of... He booked the Montreal Screwjob. So anyway, Cornette trained all these guys. Cornette trained Brock Lesnar, John Cena, fucking... that whole generation of guys. Batista, Randy Orton, right? All of those, they all have the same body. They're all just fucking 6'5", 300 pounds, jacked. They're probably on HGH. They were definitely, it was all creatine or whatever the fuck they were doing back there. Their head and their necks were massive. And, they were all trained by Jim Cornette. So I commented that on this video, and I've gotten like 300 likes on this fucking comment. On this video. That's by far the most popular thing I've done on TikTok recently. Is this comment about how Jim Cornette trained the entire ruthless aggression era. So, I don't know. I mean, wrestling is in my blood. It's a part of me. And it's fucking entertaining. I mean, personalities like Flair, like Hogan... I don't know. I like that performance style. I like the yelling. Obviously, it's a huge influence on me. I like the screaming. When I think about, different forms of acting or performance, being in a film, right? Being on a TV show, being in a play. What is the difference between wrestling and being in a... Why are these guys movie stars? Why the fuck is John Cena a movie star? Why is The Rock the biggest movie star, right? And they go back to wrestling. Like, The Rock is now... to be honest, I think there is something more satisfying and, like, total. Because it's kind of a pratfall thing. It's a physical... I don't know why that's so entertaining and why that's so... But the endless kind of, like... variation of the interlocking of the bodies and things like that, and the maneuvers and things, and the amount of storytelling that can go into that. It's so like elemental. But I do think that like it's a big part of American culture because they want to form people ready to be fucking ready for combat. And John Cena, Jesus Christ. He was kind of like a super soldier type guy. Iraq, Afghanistan. That was basically the mold. When that character came out, I thought it was so corny. I just thought, this guy is just fucking corny, man. This will never be over. I just thought, this is never gonna... This guy's like... It was sort of like a post-Eminem, where he was clearly like, for lack of a better word, he was like a white trash. He was a white guy imitating, like, hip-hop culture, right? The way he talked, John Cena, you don't see me, or whatever the fuck it is. It was so corny, and it was so, like, it didn't feel like that was who that guy was in a weird way. It felt like he was doing, like, this act. But, to be honest, our culture has become more like that. Our culture is, John Cena is, like, that's just, like, normal. People love fucking Cena. He's like a legend. He's in the Barbie movie, for fuck's sake. I think he's like a CIA plant. Wasn't fucking Randy Orton in the Marines? Yeah, but I do want to talk about Stone Cold Steve Austin, okay? I don't know. This is probably... We're just warming up. This is the first 45 minutes. So I've got some pre-planned. Then we're gonna get into the crisis at the border. I want to do a special report, a crisis at the border. Um, so Stone Cold Steve Austin, on the other hand, I do feel like is kind of the real the deal. It's you can see his journey through TikTok clips because you see these WCW clips. All these guys were in WCW in the early 90s. Mick Foley, Triple H, all the guys who went to WWF, they all had like some weird kind of run in WCW. And Steve Austin had blonde hair. He was like a Hogan guy basically. He was like a Hogan clone. Stunning Steve Austin. He had long blonde hair. And you see him sort of become through ECW. He has these shoot promos where he unloads on Bischoff and how they buried him in WCW and shit. And you see the character sort of come together a piece at a time, the Stone Cold Steve Austin character. And I still think that character is maybe the most over. To this day, I think that character takes on a greater dimension than any other character. Like Hulk Hogan was kind of propaganda for the war and kind of Reagan era bullshit, jingoism and God, say your prayers and eat your vitamins. Fitness, super soldier fitness, weightlifting, bodies, kicking ass, solving problems with muscle, being sort of a dumb racist hillbilly. The other thing about wrestling is it is kind of for hillbillies. It weirdly is appealing to hillbillies. I don't know why. That's part of the reason why I like it, I guess. And John Cena is like the modern hillbilly. Like if you go to the Hilltop and the Bottoms now, you're going to find guys who are like that. The old guys are like John Cena. They're like, can I say the word wigger? I'm sorry. I don't mean to hard R anything. I'm sorry. But like, do I have the right to say that? Can I reclaim that? Are we allowed to reclaim that word? I'm sorry. I'm just asking. I'm fine either way. I don't need to say it, but it'd be kind of funny, right? That's what Cena, right? That's the Cena character. Am I wrong? That's like Eminem. Eminem, it's like when those guys, I don't know, when we were kids, I don't know, that's probably a horrific thing to say. But I don't know. The culture has just moved closer and closer toward the face tattoo. Toward the methed out face tattoo. And, the veterans and the people who were damaged in the war. And oh my God. Painkillers. I'm addicted to painkillers. I'm hooked on painkillers. Like Perk Angle. Wrestling is just so trashy and intense. And those guys, it embodies the American ethos. The way that the WWE and Vince McMahon treats his employees in particular embodies the American corporate ethos, where it's just like, work these guys to death. They're independent contractors. They don't get to rest. They don't get paid time off. They don't get health insurance. Fuck that. That's their responsibility. They get paid way less than they did from Ted Turner. And they work like 300 days a year, traveling. They work injured. Take more drugs. Do whatever you got to do to numb the pain, Do painkillers. Fucking drink. Do whatever you got to do to stay out there and fucking... So anyway, but... Okay, so I think the Stone Cold Steve Austin character... takes on an important dimension where it's like he represents the working class. Truly. That was the angle. The angle was Austin, beer drinking, son of a bitch, at shit kicking, stomp a boot in your ass, bitch. But he's no nonsense. Austin is the classic American kind of straight shooter. He's an admirable guy, right? He's not a heel, really. I mean, Austin had heel turns and shit like that, but like he was the force of good and honesty. He represented the working class, the redneck. Really, I mean, he was a redneck. That's what we loved about him. And, you know, we need this hero more than ever. McMahon, the corporation, that was the angle, right? That was the hard angle. Is he was the boss, he was the CEO. Apparently, and I saw this in a documentary, is McMahon really identified with the Austin character. He thought that's who he was. He thought he was a blue collar, kind of self made Hellraiser fighting against the man who was Ted Turner or whatever. But, you know, the Austin character, that's what the Austin character embodied, you know, and I feel like that was the Clinton 90s. I guess it was between the kind of rabid nationalism of the Reagan Cold War and, you know, the Iraq Bush years, Afghanistan Bush years. So it was, you know, the ways it was racist were a lot different. It was the nation of domination, you know, and it was like that kind of shit. Uh, Whereas, you know, the corporation Austin versus McMahon, I don't know, the sound of the breaking glass, him coming in to fuck. I mean, the Stone Cold Stunner. You know, it just all. It all, so many of these guys, you know, the fucking Randy Orton era, it's like their finishers are so convoluted. It's like you get them up on their shoulders and you fucking throw them and twist them. And it's like, Jesus Christ, you got to do this to the. It's not quick, you know. It's not even something like the People's Elbow or the Rock Bottom. It's like it's kind of unsatisfying. It's like the Stone Cold Stunner. It's just like boom, boom. You can just go in there and do it to, you know, bam, you know, 40 guys real fast. And in that sense, even the leg drop, right? The leg drop is super fucking weak and sort of takes forever. You can't just go in and just bam, stunner the motherfucker. I mean, he stunnered Trump. You know, Austin fucking Stone Cold stunnered Trump. And so, you know, I do think in an era, we're in an era where we don't talk about class. Class is unacknowledged. They want it to be unacknowledged. You know, Steve Austin, I think, is somebody who your average working person could identify with and be like, you know, this guy, he stood up for what was right. You know, he fought against the union busting McMahon. He wasn't Hogan. He wasn't a union buster. He wasn't a snitch. He wasn't a rat. You know, I think he's coming back. There's all these videos of Austin training. He's got a cool, you know, his podcast. You can tell he's a smart guy. There's a reason why that character worked. He had kind of a Woody Harrelson quality, which in the 90s, you know, that was very, Woody Harrelson was very, very hot in that era. Kingpin and, you know, Woody Harrelson was like Natural Born Killers, right? Like that was like a fucking pretty hot cultural property in those days. And so Austin kind of, you know, the legend of Austin is very like palpable. You know, the way he broke his neck, the Austin 316 thing, WrestleMania 13 with Bret Hart, the Tyson, you know, there's him fucking flipping Tyson off. You know, like, Jesus Christ. There's not that, you know, him driving a beer truck, and there's not that many people with that many iconic moments on film. And what Austin represented is camo, even his wardrobe, jeans, shorts, boots, and fucking camo shit. That's pretty much what people wear now in America, you know? Stone Cold Steve Austin is like, I don't think he's a bad role model, you know? I think he's a good, you know, if there was a fucking war, people like Steve Austin would probably be fighting it, I would imagine. And I don't know, he's, you feel safe. He makes you feel safe. That's important, you know? That's something, you know, it's, we're attracted to people that make us feel safe. Okay, what's going on? Yeah, so Stone Cold Steve Austin. So apparently he's training, you know. Apparently he's going to make some kind of WWE return possibly. They're saying he might come back at WrestleMania for a match. They say he might do a match. Which, to be honest, I wouldn't be surprised if he stepped away because of the McMahon thing. Now that McMahon is gone, maybe he's like, okay, maybe I'll get involved again. He seemed like he kind of kept his distance of all the WWF guys. To me, it'll always be WWF. I mean, fuck the WWE. I think that's ridiculous. That's like meta or alphabet. It's like bullshit. It's WWF. It's the World Wrestling Federation forever. You know, it's just a better name. They're trying to smooth it over. You know, it's the same way they don't have blood now. They're trying to smooth it over by calling it World Wrestling Entertainment. Yeah, so this is my wrestling fan podcast. It's all intertwined, is what I'm saying. This is why I'm picking this person to talk about. I'm trying to find people that are like in the popular media that I feel like, you know, these are the cultural icons of the day. Then I'm like, okay, I can feel kind of positive about this. I feel positive about DiCaprio. He's in Great Gatsby movie. You know, it makes sense that he would be that guy. Who else other than DiCaprio from that era? You know, Keanu's done some good work. Joaquin Phoenix maybe is a contemporary. Maybe somebody like Mark Ruffalo or obviously Tobey Maguire. Like, where's Tobey Maguire been? Right? He's not out there doing shit. He was in that lame fucking Spider-Man thing. Whatever. It's like, come on. He's not out there with the world's greatest filmmakers. Fucking okay. There was this video I saw on TikTok. It's all TikTok from now on. Okay, I'm trapped. I'm just synthesizing and pureeing my TikTok experience and regurgitating it out back at you. There was this video where it talks about when he was going to do Gangs of New York. It said Leonardo DiCaprio went to Daniel Day-Lewis's townhouse in the West Village and knocked on the door. And this is why this TikTok is showing me this video, because it's about the West Village. It's telling me that Daniel Day-Lewis has a townhouse in the West Village. And so I'm a West Village like freak. I'm obsessed with the West Village. And these movies, you know, these movie stars live there. Fucking Daniel Day-Lewis lives there. So I'm playing this movie in my head. Oh my God. They live among us. You know, this could have happened when I was. And so, you know, he knocks on Daniel Day-Lewis's door and he says, "Hi, I'm Leonardo." And Daniel Day-Lewis goes, "Hi, I'm Daniel." And they had, you know, lunch together or whatever. And I thought, you know, that is a very cool way to do that. You know, he knocked on the guy's door. He introduced himself on a first name basis. There was no Hollywood, you know who the fuck I am and all this kind of. It was just like, hey, I want to get to know this guy. We're going to work together. He knocked on his door in the West Village. Like, I thought, okay, there's a guy who knows, you know, he cares about this. You know, even though he's the biggest movie star, he's fucking rich, whatever. You know, I can't even imagine what it must be like, his sex life. I mean, he must be so desensitized. I've heard he doesn't even take his earbuds out. It's like, come on, man. How can this be? It's like, this is the legacy media. This is the power of the legacy media. In those days, if you were that guy, it's like, forget about it. Forget about it. It's like the whole fucking generations of people are brainwashed into just wanting to sleep with you because you were on fucking Titanic. You know, people grew up with this emotional machine programming this kind of like experience. He's Jack, okay? He dies. He dies. And he's done a good, you know, ever since then, it's all just been, but he's done a good job with it. Stone Cold Steve Austin, I salute you as well. Who was it? There was another fucking person I wanted to talk about. Oh my God. Oh my God, can I not remember? Fuck, who cares? All right, well, we're gonna go off the book now. So yeah, I guess I'll talk about. Oh my God. I'll talk about the migrant crisis, quote unquote, because it's on everything. You know, it's on all the cable news, and it's sort of and so I was watching a bunch of videos about it. So let me synthesize my experience of watching YouTube videos and yap about it on my channel and regurgitate this experience for you. So basically, my sources are Andrew Callahan, Channel 5 videos. Cash Jordan has been doing some excellent coverage. He's like a New York real estate guy. He's been talking about it. With YouTube, it's hard to tell because you can never tell if people are getting paid off. It does feel like the algorithm chooses certain people. It feels extremely right-wing to me. The stuff, everything I click, it's just like, Jesus Christ. I can't believe how fucking right wing this is. Except Yannis, that Greek, the Greek guy who's an economist. You know, like I pay close attention. That's why this book is so important. People really need to get this book, The Uprising. This was written. These texts were written in 2011, right? And it really has a lot to say about the environment that we're living in right now and just how we're hyper extended with our senses because of information overload, the change, you know, and just the abstraction of money or wealth from any kind of use value in any kind of place in uh, physical reality or functionality. You know, wealth is increasingly becoming something that's just stockholder value, crypto. I mean, shit, this was written before that was even really like a major, you know, he doesn't even mention crypto in this book. I'm not sure if crypto was really I'm sure it wasn't a huge thing in 2011. Maybe it was sort of coming around, but I don't remember hearing about crypto maybe till 2012 or something. My boss in Columbus would talk about it, who was an ultra capitalist, because you know it's just the ultimate way to divorce wealth from any kind of physical. But there's a concurrent divorce of, you know, there's an atrophy of our physical reality basically happening because it's just there's no all of the wealth is going toward uh it's like an inflation, right? It's like the inflation is just like it's going to rich people. The inflation is just going up, 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 rather than being put to use in the world. The wealth is not being redistributed, it's just being hoarded. It's being consolidated. You know, it's like I hate to harp on this, but it's like until this changes, I mean, this is why the commercial real estate is empty. This is why no one can afford an apartment. This is why they can charge us whatever the fuck they want at the grocery store because there is no free market. Uh, and it's hard to get past that. You know, it's hard because it's becoming an emergency. It feels like with the cost of food, the cost of living, the quality of living, it feels like an emergency. I mean, I've always lived, you know, on the edges of fucking financial survival. It's getting increasingly hard to do that, really, because things are so expensive, places to live are so expensive. And so the reason why there's an atrophy of third places, concert venues are closing down, right? Clubs, no one goes clubbing anymore, right? No one has expendable income and everybody's doing everything on their goddamn phones, right? Everybody's on TikTok. Everybody's and, you know, I'm trying to tap into a virtual audience. I'm not good at it really, although I do think it has its effect. I think it's important to just get up and just try and say your truth and report back the things that you learned for, you know. So, well, we're the fucking legitimate so-called media is just vaporizing before our eyes. Newspapers, magazines, whatever, it's all going out of business or it's being done by AI or whatever the fuck. And there, you know, it's a gold rush online to get attention, to build followers, whatever. But also, it feels like the best place to spread your truth and also just like be artistic. This is something I want to do artistically and experiment with, you know, language. You know, this is okay. This is something I want to talk about with Richard Lewis. This is something I should talk about as well. Um, because Richard Lewis is an example, I think, of something that is lost in the modern. Me and my friend Eamon were talking about this. In fact, I want to get his. Well, I can't get it because of my phone, but um, the thing that Richard Lewis had that what a lot of modern comedians lack, you know, style, romance, you know, a sense of grief. You know, he wore the you know his style, his clothes. He wore all black. I remember that. Even as a kid, I remember Richard Lewis. I remember from 5 years old seeing Richard Lewis on Fox or whatever, his costume, right? And his whole character. This is something that just like, you don't, comedians now, right? Like Shane Gillis just hosted Saturday Night Live, um, which was sort of a vindication for edgelord stand-up podcasters everywhere, and I've seen some Shane Gillis videos because he's become popular on TikTok, and it's one of my, I don't know, I've started to pay a little more attention to stand-up comedy culture since I've been trying to do it and whatnot, or getting in those venues and things. And so I've seen, a little bit of his work. I cannot believe that he gets away. First of all, he said a racial slur. you know, I don't think that's funny. I don't think it's funny that he said a racial slur. I've seen the clip. To be honest, I think it's vindicated that he got fired. Like, I just don't think that's funny. And it's like, the things that I've seen since, where he's got his picture with Trump, it's like, now everybody's doing their Trump impersonations like it's funny again. It's sort of like we've been desensitized to it so much, and Biden is such a weak opponent that like they look just as bad, and so it's sort of let people. It's sort of there's a large right wing element in the stand up comedy world, and so it's sort of let those people feel free. And not that I don't know. It's just a lot of times when I see him on stage, he's laughing at himself, and what he's saying is not that funny. Like he kind of relies on the same kind of punch, sophomore kind of gag lines. You're gay or whatever. That like middle school. I don't know. It's whatever. He looks like Hitler. If you put a little mustache on him, he looks like a fat Hitler. He looks like if Hitler went to Oklahoma State or something. If Hitler's been doing keg stands for 10 years. I don't know, but he seemed like he was a good sport about getting fired and rehosting, all these it's like the Norm thing, right? Like Norm got fired and he went back, so blah blah blah. So there was a whole thing I was going to go into there. What the fuck was it? Oh yeah, okay. So I don't know. No, I'm not even going to go there. But okay, so I want to talk about what my understanding of like the what's going on with the migrant situation. Well, okay, so the last thing I heard today was basically it's like, they're sort of trying to give New York, these northern cities, a shared responsibility or a taste of their own medicine or whatever by busing them from places like Texas, Arizona, the Southwest, where they typically have to deal with this situation. Like in New York, we can sort of afford to be idealistic about it because it's not, we don't live on the border, right? And so busing people in here is a way of maybe alleviating some of the situation on them. I don't know. But, okay, what I've basically seen on these, from doing research on YouTube is, which I think is a valid form, by the way. I mean, you're seeing it. You're watching it. I don't know. It's very systematized. It's not like people are sneaking into the country like necessarily per se. It's like, a lot of times there's a hole in the quote unquote wall and they cross over into it and there are authorities waiting to get them and sort of begin this process of them seeking asylum. Supposedly, if they are in danger in their home country, if they are in danger if their safety is in danger, then they have the right to seek asylum in this country. And so a lot of the people at the border, that is the process that begins. If they, now there's some debate over whether or not people have been coached to just say this about their living situation back home, but be that as it may, uh, a lot of people are coming here. It's a dangerous journey, first of all, to get here. You got to cross a number of different borders. People get kidnapped. You could fucking die in some kind of fucking vehicle accident or something. It's like there's any number of perils along the way to get here, right? So it's a dangerous trip, and people are coming here to seek something better than probably, maybe their situation back home. I don't know. Um, but at the same time, there were a couple guys that Andrew Callahan interviewed that were just like they were doing it because they want to go to Nashville, Tennessee, to meet Taylor Swift. They were like they love Taylor Swift. They wanted to go to Nashville to be near Taylor. And it's like to be honest, some of the guys I worked with, they came to New York for reasons that were not different from that necessarily. I mean, the wage is higher here, right? That's why. And so the people who are in hotels and shit and who are in the shelter system in New York City, that process starts there. Depending on whatever their situation is when they're caught, which to me seems like it's almost like not every time, obviously, but like, this was like it was almost like these people were volunteering into the process, like these border agents. And, so they come here on buses, and from what I understand, right, okay, the big controversy now is they're getting these fucking credit cards. They get $10,000 prepaid credit cards. And, the reason why I wanted to investigate this is because it is such a political football. It's very easy. Of course, Fox News and Trump and all these people are going to jump all over this and try to exaggerate it and try to make it seem like it's an invasion and God knows what. These people are taking all our fucking money. They're coming here. They're leeching off the government. They're going to bankrupt the government. They're going to collapse these cities. Who the fuck knows? The process that I saw in these hotels in Midtown seemed very orderly. These people did not seem like criminals. It seems like they were trying to work. It's a long process. It's 6 months or longer to seek asylum to the point that you can begin to work in this country. So they're kept in this holding pattern where they cannot work. They're not legally allowed to work in this country. And yet they need to be housed. They need to be fed because they've begun the asylum process and they're in the system. And so they were making them these pre-made meals, which were like, they looked like grocery store food, but it was like $11 per meal is what, I'm sure some private business was making them for $2 and pocketing $9, but supposedly it was $11 per meal. And the people couldn't eat it or they didn't want it. And, it looked like garbage, to be honest. And, you do have to be sensitive to what people eat and blah, blah, blah. And so they figured the best decision was to give them these prepaid debit cards, which are basically like EBT, which are also kind of useless because I don't think you can buy hot food with it. And none of these fucking shelters or these hotels that they live in have kitchens. And they're not allowed to have microwave or hot plate. So they literally can't cook. So it's like, what the fuck are they supposed to buy with these EBT cards? I think baby supplies or, shit like that. So, I don't know. In the city, you're always trying to gauge the situation in the city, just see what's going on. And, it's right in the middle of the city. A lot of these hotels and shit, Midtown. And so, it just looking into it to see what the truth is, you know, not some kind of sensationalized uh it's just like any kind of government thing. They just throw a bunch of money at it. It's like the pandemic, you know, it was just like they have, you know, it's the federal government or whatever. They have a huge amount of money. They uh it is kind of shocking. I mean, one of the points raised by the video was like, you know, your average American, the average boomer social security payment. But this is right. This is the fucking fight that they're trying to get us to have. They're trying to get us to squabble with each other. The average boomer social security payment is like $1,700 or something, right? Meanwhile, these people are getting $1,000 a month or whatever the fuck it is, prepaid credit cards. Why are they getting all this money? You know, when Americans don't have anything. I think my dad gets like $300 a month in Social Security, which, like, granted, he never really worked. He never really paid into it, but still, you know, the idea, the thinking needs to be like America is the wealthiest country that's ever existed. You know, there's plenty for everybody. That's not necessarily to say that anybody can come here and, you know, and, uh, you know, I think there does probably need to be a more serious, specific question about what happens at the border. And um, it does seem like these cities, New York, Chicago, you know, de Blasio was the mayor. When Trump came in, he did the Muslim ban, you know, the travel ban and all this stuff. And so there was this huge resistance, right, that was just ready to come out against anything, particularly immigration stuff, right? Kids in cages at the borders, the wall. That was like the shit that really fueled, you know, Trump's best line was they're building the wall and we're going to make them pay for it. We're building a wall and we're going to make them pay for it. That was kind of Trump's best. That was his whole, you know. And I don't mean best. I mean like that was the one that just like was the most outrageous and kind of audacious. But the reaction to that from all the liberal politicians was, "You're welcome here. All refugees welcome." Right? You see the signs all over Brooklyn. All refugees welcome in businesses. And to sign up to be to be sanctuary cities. I'm not sure if that happened a long time ago. Maybe New York has been a sanctuary city for decades. I don't know. I think it has been, but it seemed like De Blasio and the mayors and the cities did make, you know, they wanted to show a lot of face that they were welcoming, and not that that is wrong, but I think, you know, what we're seeing is this is what that is, you know. If all refugees are welcome here, it's like, well, this is the situation, right? And so what is the reality of that? What do we do? Does it matter? What does it matter to me? Why should it, you know, like, does it affect my life? I mean, to some degree, I don't believe in the whole, like, fear of debt spending and all this kind of stuff within. I mean, this is one of the points that this book makes, is that, you know, to be honest, it's fake. It's all fake. You know, the debt, whatever it is, it's fake. They could cancel it right now. And, you know, it wouldn't actually make any difference. Really. Like, the Republicans are the ones who are the masters of the debt spending. You know, the Democrats are always the one who balance the budget. But in any case, it's not a question of like, do we have enough, right? There's no conversation about taking the money from the corporations, the wealth that's created by the workers, by the working class, the cognitive laborers, right? We should get paid for this. We should get paid for our posts. Because we are living in an attention economy. We are living in a cognitive labor economy. And so we're providing free content. We're providing free product, essentially, in the sort of crowdsourcing economic competition of, you know, these social media apps. But, uh, oh my God, what the hell was I talking about? I lost my train of thought. Does this ruin it for people when I lose my train of thought? It's like such a fucking, oh my God. My friend yesterday, I told my friend that I had, these are my, because I'm old and canceled. These are my old and canceled guy glasses. And they go, like Terry Richardson. These are my Terry Richardson glasses. There's an Indie Sleaze reference. Talk about Indie Sleaze, Jesus Christ. The very definition of Indie Sleaze. Terry, look up Indie Sleaze in the Vice Guide to Hipsterdom. Rest in peace, Vice. How did they blow that so hard? This is what I mean. I mean, that was a big part of Brooklyn, was Vice. Everybody who was cool worked for Vice at one point or another. And that's just collapsed. What's going to happen in Williamsburg? They had a $5 billion market valuation. And they just went out of business. It's like, what? What's going to happen to fucking Action Bronson? The Action Bronson complex. All these shows about smoking weed and eating. Um, yeah, so I lose my train of thought. Uh, I'm abstracting the meaning from any kind of real. God, maybe I should just read it. Let me just read some passages from this because there are some important things that need to be said. Well, okay. One thing I do want to talk about, I think, okay, we are in like an increasingly me, self-reliant. That's what we're told, and that's kind of what democracy, you know, implies is like our votes are important, so we need to develop ourselves. We are important. Our voice is important. It is just kind of like a very self-centered message. It's particularly the way that it's honed in this country, where it's all about competition and beating other people, self-reliance. There is no altruism. Covert narcissism decide as altruism, like some congressmen. Um, we have it's encouraged, the narcissism in the society, and the kind of isolation, the alienation from everybody else. Uh, I don't know. It's scary to think the future that they're kind of deciding for us. This is really happening, where it's like we're not going to be able to own anything. We're just going to be able to rent. They want everybody to be kind of reliant, independent economic units who work. You're only valuable as long as you can work for the company. You rent your house from the company, maybe. You buy your stuff from the company. Uh, the cloud. You don't own anything and you're happy. You take Ubers everywhere. That's what they said, right? Uh, we're being dissociated from independence, and I don't know. There isn't like a wealth redistribution that's happening that's enabling more people to create things, to fulfill their life and just have a quality of living, right? Um, and so, oh yeah, okay. The other person I want to talk about LeBron. LeBron as another generational, like admirable. I think LeBron is kind of like the epitome of millennial in a way, and he's maybe the best of millennial because it's like rather than be Jordan, just like this degenerate gambling shithead, psychopath, competitive. I mean, Jordan did win 6 championships, but he paid the price. And he represents that kind of like Tiger Woods pre-crash. I mean, especially pre 9/11 era of just kind of unfettered capitalism, unfettered winning, unfettered competition, gambling, winning at all costs. Kind of, being raw, but like he's the old school, it's like, but LeBron, the fucking debate on line is who's the GOAT, right? Is it Jordan? Is it LeBron? Or is it Kobe? And, LeBron, I think, took the high road. And he had a longer career that was like slow and steady. Jordan was done, by the time he went to the fucking Washington Wizards or whatever it was, by 98, 99, he was done. It was over. He'd kind of flamed out. And those teams were stacked. I mean, he had Scottie Pippen, fucking Rodman, Horace Grant, Phil Jackson. LeBron was playing in Cleveland for fuck's sake. He had the weight of history on him in a way that Jordan didn't really. I mean, there was a whole other meaning to the legend of LeBron that he honored, to be honest. He fulfilled his destiny against all odds. Those fucking teams were so stacked against him. Those Golden State teams were just optimum Silicon Valley bullshit, where they just bought and optimized, they just, all the analysts, all the consultants, their smart arena, their shooting percentage. LeBron, somehow, that was a miracle. He pulled that motherfucker out. And he's had a number, you want to talk about a story with a lot of chapters in it. Jordan's story, it's like, there's a lot of weird chapters in it, but it's like he played for one team, basically. I mean, the Wizards thing was sort of a non-starter. Then he played baseball, right? That's something that you sort of forget about. I remember as a kid, Michael Jordan quit fucking basketball to go try and play baseball. And he fucking, how weird was it seeing fucking Michael Jordan in like a White Sox? But, the rumor is that his dad obviously was murdered. And the rumor is his dad got killed because of his gambling debts. And so he had to leave basketball to go play baseball. That's the rumor that I heard. He had to get away from basketball and just sort of, I mean, Jesus Christ. I remember when that happened too. How horrible, But, Jordan represents the kind of rotten, LeBron feels more benevolent. He won in Miami. He won in Cleveland, for Christ's sake. I mean, there's been a lot of chapters, right? He went to the NBA out of high school. He didn't even go to fucking college. Good for him. I think he's the same age as me. I think we're literally the same age. And so he's been kind of a parallel. And it seemed like he lived for, his friends, his family, his region. He's a nice, he's a nice presence. He's funny. He's good whenever he's like in a comedy thing or whatever. He's still playing, right? And maybe he hasn't been as like bloodthirsty and just like dominate at all times. But I think there's been more longevity. He's a good king. Good King James. For somebody to be the best player for that long. It's there's he's not he been maybe compressed into his as much into his few years. And Jordan is such a highlight reel guy. Jordan, it's like he was always hitting. It's like he got off on that. I think he got off on that. He was he liked delaying to the last possible second. Jordan really got off on that. And there's so many, fucking clips of Jordan hitting the fucking buzzer beating kind of like game winning fucking shot. Oh, Jesus Christ. Alright, this is the most boring stream ever. I mean, Ashley's at Silencio. Ashley is cucking me. She's got a second life. Me, I'm at home, I'm live streaming. I mean, I got a live stream. No one's watching. Jesus Christ. Is my bombing? Am I bombing on my live stream? Well, I don't know what to talk about. I mean, the class warfare is doing nothing. I mean, this is, believe it or not, this is doing nothing. I mean, as much as I'd like to believe that getting online and like trying to say the smartest thing in the class is going to like save the planet, this does not seem to be working. And I don't seem to be attracting an audience either, so maybe I'm not as smart as I think I am. Maybe I don't have anything to say. I just blow hot wind. Oh, I've been talking about Leonardo DiCaprio and Stone Cold Steve Austin for fucking an hour. The Broken Skull Ranch. Yeah, so, I don't know how real organization is going to be possible. I mean, that's one of the points of this book is like, yeah, what?
Let's go downstairs like half an hour.
All right. Can we do an hour? 1 hour. 1 hour. Oh, God, this is so unprofessional. This is like a fucking Saturday Night Live skit from the 80s. Jesus Christ, I'm bombing on my live stream. I got nothing to say. Richard Lewis died. Okay, so I'll talk about Richard Lewis. He was a Buckeye, okay, but... And I don't think he went on stage having no idea what he was going to say, but apparently he did not really plan that, it was like, I'm sure he had jokes, I'm sure he had things, but it was like, I don't think it was like very, like somebody like George Carlin, it's like every special you can tell is very structured. He's working this material, he's putting it into a certain order. Richard Lewis, he really looked up to like Lenny Bruce, I think. And so it's like that spirit is part of what I feel like is kind of gone, is like there was a side of comedy that was like, I don't know, art hippie, like coffee house, drug, experimental jazz, like jazz solos. The way that a jazz solo is sort of this oral tirade and collage and articulation. Comedy is sort of a similar kind of kvetching arpeggio or whatever. I think I've become a lot less funny and probably less interesting since I started to do comedy. The thing is, I don't really care about doing comedy, but it's like, can I get up and talk about Stone Cold Steve Austin on stage in sort of an unstructured, free jazz way? I mean, maybe I do need a new form. Maybe I should do PowerPoint presentations or some kind of like bullet point. I don't know. Okay. Is he watching my stream right now? He's probably the one person that was watching. And now nobody's watching. I mentioned Ashley and they stopped watching. I mean, I feel bad that I have to disable comments. The comments could be very interesting. I'd like to build a community, but we're on Leap Day, everybody. We're celebrating Richard Lewis. Improvisational. I watched. I recommended people. They're both free on Tubi. There's a video, Diary of a Young Comic, which is a great. I don't know if it was made for TV or what, but it's like very young Richard Lewis. It's like the late '70s, and it's. I'd like to remake it. It's a great idea for. It's sort of like maybe a precursor to kind of because it's all about just his life, trying to make it as a comedian in L.A. and there's a lot of kind of wacky characters and stuff. And then I watched Magical Misery Tour, which is him live from the bottom line in like 1997, which is in the Village. And I guess it's the first special he had ever done sober. And he was trying to prove to himself that he could do a show sober in the Village and do a good job. And he does, he's amazing. He's got this kind of Marx Brothers, Buster Keaton, Lenny Bruce, but like Eric Bogosian quality, It's theatrical. Comedians now, it's like, I like Norm and everything, but it's like, they're all just kind of these guys that just stand there. It's like, they got no style. They don't dress up. They dress like they're sports writers. It's like Richard Lewis had this whole fucking wardrobe and like, the romance of that, the poetry of that, the wildness, the wild kind of hippie, psychedelic enlightened side of comedy, the George Carlin, Cafe Wah, Marin, Janine Garofalo, the people that are out there that are still doing it. I follow David Cross on TikTok. I think there are some people, they get overlooked by the media, really. David Cross is very left-wing in his stand-up. And he does tour. He's been touring as long as I can remember, putting out stand-up specials, where he talks about politics and left-wing and blah, blah, blah. Janine Garofalo's still doing it. And Mark Maron, of course, is one of the eminent... Yeah, so my friend said these are Terry Richardson glasses. I mean, Terry Richardson was peak. I don't get that. I just didn't. I guess I got it. It was like the ironic vintage retro kind of thrift store aesthetic that took over everything, like circa 2000s. But the amount of trust that these models had in him is crazy. Considering, I mean, he's such a predator. I don't know. To me, these glasses are kind of more like Ed McMahon glasses. They're like old guy, Jerry Lewis kind of glasses. Yeah, I don't know. What's the next move? I'm not entertaining here. I got nothing to say about life. I mean, we're just so fucked by financial class, the wealth. They're literally stealing our money. I can't believe we're not having a conversation right now about restructuring the wealth distribution in our society, because it's insane to me, actually, that there's people out there that are working that are these companies. You know, Amazon. Think about how many Amazon delivery workers there are, and how much value and how much wealth is being created that goes to Jeff Bezos rather than those workers. It's like they're the ones that are creating the wealth, actually. Maybe he's the one that like started the company. We kind of overvalue that stuff, actually. We live in this superstar economy where we overvalue the ego and the achievement of the individual. And, you know, it was my idea or something, so I get all the money. But it's like, you know, there's how many fucking people work for Amazon and Amazon warehouses delivering, you know, they're everywhere. That's part of their fucking business, right? Is they are trying to be every fucking place all the time. And it's crazy to me that we have an ideology where that wealth goes to mostly that one person so he can fucking build space shuttles, spaceships. Um, that seems absolutely fucking insane and self-defeating. Just like as you know, like I don't think that we could balance things with the environment, with ourselves. You know, there could be enough for everybody. I think the pandemic showed what like the necessary work is. You know, certain things need to get done. If you have ideas, if you're entrepreneurial, blah blah blah. But wealth, you know, and part of the big point of this book is wealth has been completely divorced from real world functional use value, anything like that. It absolutely does not matter, right? Uh, the signifier and the signified. Now, money, right? It's a symbol of a transactional value. It's not really corresponding to a literal value. You know, this is something I talked about a lot in my live stream, and you know, I was wasting a lot of breath because it's already been decided that it doesn't correspond. You know, the idea, I guess, in Karl Marx is that your labor has a monetary value because it takes a certain amount of time to do something. Whereas now we live in an economy where it's been divorced from that standard. You know, it's like you can have billions and billions and billions of dollars, and like that can fluctuate wildly just based on market speculation, group decision making, insider trading. And it's all made up. Um, but I mean, we're not even beginning to have that conversation. You know, like there's a conversation about why are these people stealing our fucking resources at the border or whatever. Okay, that's it for now. God. I just had to practice with this. I mean, it's been a while since I've really been doing a lot of talk pieces. Um, you know, I used to just walk around talking to my camera, talking to my microphone all the time. And it's just hard to know what people are interested in. Are they interested in my personal life? When I talk about my personal experience, it's like nobody cares about that. I want to talk about things that are relevant to people, like the migrant situation, or, you know, the economics of how we're getting super fucked and how our physical reality is just atrophying before our very eyes. It all feels very conspiratorial. It's like, when is there going to be pushback? When is the dam going to break and some of the resources be redistributed? Why not um, try to create a better quality of living in this country? Like, why not educate people better and give them more free time and give them proper health care, give them places, to form communities and form having enriching experiences, have memorable experiences, travel, meet each other, spend time with each other, spend time with your family, spend time with your friends, act on your own ideas, right? I mean, America is a place that survives based on the ingenuity of the people that are here, basically. That's what keeps it number one. Facebook started here. All that bullshit is here. Google is here. What else? All of this stupid Silicon Valley shit is here. Instagram. The only thing that's not here is TikTok. That's why there's so much propaganda against it. Because it's not an American company and they can't control really what they do. So they want to ban the whole thing. It's insane. Um, and like, I don't know, it is maybe dangerous. This is why I kind of was okay when I wasn't able to be on it, because it's like, uh, um, it just takes over your life. And I don't even post. I mean, Jesus Christ, not really. God, what the fuck else do I want to say? I mean, uh, Lynn Haginian passed away. Okay, so yeah, I did this reading last night at Poetry Project. I filmed the Pierre Jory, Nicole Pear Rafit reading, and that is couples goals right there, because they have check them out. They're very cool. I mean, the Poetry Project has these amazing kind of Bruce Andrews and his partner are kind of like that too, where they just do these kind of funky avant-garde movement with poetry, with paint, live painting, and music. This guy had a violin, so they had projections. It was the first event I'd done this year, so I was back at work last night, back to poetry business. I'd like to get out and do an open mic before Monday. We'll see. I don't know. I'm having these kind of fucking I'm always having tooth problems, and right now, like, my wisdom tooth is like kind of coming in, and so I'm not sure if I should be worried about it or if I'm just being paranoid. Because, well, I mean, I should definitely be worried about it. Like, a normal person would get this handled, definitely. But me, I'm like paranoid about doctors and sort of like a naturalist. And so I'm like, well, maybe I'll just let nature take its course and kind of see what happens. So that's kind of what I'm doing. I mean, it really hasn't become an emergency, and it doesn't even hurt or anything. It's just like kind of mildly. I'm just, I think one of the reasons why I have tooth problems is because it's like a form of worry. It's a form of rumination. And, like, once you get some kind of new abrasion or whatever that is in your teeth, you kind of obsess, at least I do. As soon as my teeth kind of change shape or something, I just, like, my obsess over it, my tongue, I just start tonguing it constantly. I'm just tonguing it constantly because I don't know if that's masochism, but it's like obsession, it's rumination. And, I'm thinking, oh God, I should go to the dentist, I should go to this, but I don't have a dentist, so I'm like worried, like I don't want to go to the wrong dentist. And to be honest, I just don't trust, I got some fillings the last time I saw a dentist, which I don't even, I think I was, it was a long time ago. It may have even been in fucking high school. It probably was high school was the last time I actually saw a dentist, that can't be possible. Um, And to be honest, none of the work that they did is still in my mouth. Like the teeth that had the fillings in it completely collapsed and washed away. And when the guy was putting the fillings in, he cracked like the tooth next to it. And so that caused a problem that wasn't even there. So I'm like, what am I going to do? I'm going to get a filling and then gradually that's going to get fucked up over time. And I'm going to be, that's why it's like you can't get this stuff back, right? That's what's so heartbreaking to me about having these problems. Is like once there's any kind of little it's like it's over. That's just going to get exploited and sort of, hollowed out and expanded upon. And so I've got problems on the corners of both sides of my mouth. I've got a cavity here, and I've got a wisdom tooth growing in here, and a cavity. And so I'm not exactly looking forward to going to a dentist. And to be honest, it really hasn't been, I mean, I'm brushing, I'm fucking, fucking mouth washing constantly, like constantly. I kind of watch what I eat a little bit, and it's just like, here we are. And so I don't even know. I mean, wisdom teeth can cause all kind of weird problems. So I'm kind of just like, you know, on eggshells, afraid basically. I'm just afraid. I've heard horror stories about, but I'm trying not to Google it. You know, I'm trying to just let nature take its course. Maybe that's really fucking stupid, but yeah, I've just been ruminating too much. Um, I don't know. I'm trying to read. So yeah, I've been reading. Let me read some fucking passages from this book. I don't know if I can find one. Desire is diverted from physical contact and invested in the abstract field of simulated seduction and the infinite space of the image. The boundless enhancement of disembodied imagination leads to the virtual. Well, maybe this is not a good. Oh God. I don't want to read anything right now. I'm too fucking high. I'm a middle-aged man. I'm high on the internet. And no one is watching. How pathetic. Don't bother me. I can't think of anything to say. We're not gonna solve the fucking world's problems. Jon Stewart's back on the Daily Show. He wants to do it. I don't know, man. I think things have got to get worse before they get better. That seems. I mean, it does not. It doesn't seem like anybody is even. I mean, at least the last election, like there was Bernie, and the elections before that, for that matter. So it was like there was a conversation that was happening. At least that was kind of exciting. People were organizing around, kind of a socialist, democratic socialist, right? A DSA. There's none of that mobilization this time. I mean, the Palestine Israel thing has really clipped whatever kind of activists. Not that the Bernie people were for Biden, but like, uh, I don't know. I don't feel any kind of like political. People are kind of joking about Trump, but it's scary what would happen if he got reelected, which is seeming increasingly like a possibility. Because I mean, Jesus Christ. I mean, I'm just gonna say it. I have no problem with Kamala Harris. I have no problem. Let's get a woman in the office. You know, especially a woman of color. Like that means something. Like, uh, uh people really hate on Kamala, but or Kamala. I'm sorry, but Jesus Christ, I mean, look at Sleepy Joe. It's classified. It's like I can't even watch the clips. Nobody can. And anyway, in any case, it's clear that that's not like activism. You know, it's like it's the Democratic Party, like they don't give a fuck about us. Not really. It's clear. You know, they're not going to push anything. They have their own agenda. They're not really listening. They tried a little bit. There's certain things that they kind of are okay with, like unions or whatever, but they don't want to go too far. You know, they still want to send $100 billion or whatever it is to Israel, which is kind of nuts. It's totally insane. Uh, so I think there is truth to just like this country is like dehydrating like a plant that's not being fed, and there is an agenda, not necessarily maybe to help other people or something. You know, it's not about, you know, we don't want to help other people, but it's like the people here, it's just like there's no fun anymore. I don't know. I try to have fun. Maybe I just watch too much TikTok and worry about this stuff too much. I guess I don't know what else I'd talk about or write about. Uh, you know, partially, I guess I just feel trapped in circumstance. You know, it's mostly about cost of living, right? A lot of why I'm complaining or dissecting economic is because it's like there's just no way to live. It's you know the way I'm living right now is like at the mercy of this situation, and even this is kind of desperate and like you know the reason why I'm having these tooth problems is because my diet. You know, my diet is all fucked up. This is not like white people Brooklyn. This is not gentrified Whole Foods Brooklyn. It's like I don't know. You know, it's taken me a long time to just stabilize my diet, and even now I'm eating these rich, heavy foods. Shout out to Everyday Grocery, my favorite place on earth. This woman who works at Everyday Grocery is the best. She's an immigrant, I think. She does not speak that much English. And so every day when I go in, she's like kind of apologetic, but she's very funny. You know, she's like, I don't know, she's like a character. She's like the character in Jarmusch movie. You know, it's like, you know, she has a limited vocabulary, but we manage to communicate. And she's nice, you know, in the neighborhood. It's like she's a polite person. And it's all that's all like rich. I don't even know. Is it Polish? I think it's Polish. You know, it's all pretty heavy. I've been eating a lot of cherry sticks. I've been eating a lot of blintzes and like these beef log things. It's all just very rich. And so I don't know. My life, I don't even know what the fuck. I'm just trying to keep on keeping on, you know, in my dissenting sort of anti-work way, and not. Maybe I should just get a job. Maybe I should just get a jobby job for real, for real. You know, that's where a lot of my resentment comes from. If I was some kind of community college professor, or you know, I don't need a whole lot. I'm not like these other spoiled millennials. I could easily survive on $2,000 a month, but it's hard to even put that together as an open mic host. Believe it or not, as an open mic slash host slash self published poet slash podcaster comedian slash vlogger. You know, I have so many jobs. I'm a vlogger. I'm a podcaster. I'm a poet. I'm a comedian. I'm a videographer. I'm a music. You know, it's like I've got like 12 jobs. And yeah, I only make $400 a month. What the hell? Oh yeah. So these situations are just they've become hyper intensified. You know, when I see because my escape plan, right, was always like just go to Columbus and get a house that costs $600 a month or something. You know, in German Village, at the sort of on the cusp. And now it's like that's not an option. You know, you can't find an apartment in Columbus. It's the same price there probably as it is here, more or less. It's not that much more expensive to live here. And so I do kind of just feel trapped. I feel like in this weird kind of limbo where it's like, I have no homeland. I'm just a wandering, I have no right to exist, basically. My apartment has no right to exist. Yeah, well, I guess, if you don't get a job, how are you going to pay for an apartment? But, it's $1,200, $1,300 for a room, $1,000 for a room. Forget about it. Forget about it. Uh, you know, in my utopia, that price would go way down. You know, ideally you'd be able to find a room for six, seven, $800, $900. I'd love to find a room for $500. Well, this is, I mean, this is great. I actually like it here. It's great, and I feel like we're getting good work done. But I don't know, man. It's like I think like all of us, we just feel locked in. It's like, how do we get to the next level of anything in our career? How do we get? I mean, me. Oh God, I don't know. I'm locked into this personal situation that I can't get out of. I would. I don't know. I don't know. I mean, it's all poetry life. It's all for the poetry. It's all for the art. And I got to book people. So I'm booking some stuff coming up. It's pretty exciting. Oh, God, is this the worst live stream I've ever done? I don't think so. I don't think it is. Um, I feel increasingly like self conscious about doing this because I do it a lot less, and I know that I want to sort of, throughout the week I'm thinking of things. I'm constantly thinking, oh, I want to say this on the live stream. Oh, I should say that, and so I'm kind of trying to like tally these things in my head, keep track of them. But then when I come and do this, it's hard to just like non sequitur all this shit together. Or when I have these bullet points, a lot of times it just sounds kind of ridiculous. Like, oh my god, I want to celebrate Stone Cold Steve Austin. That's what I want to talk about. Okay, what the fuck else am I going to talk about? Like, that's really, but at the same time, uh, there's a lot of good things on here that like I should cover at some point. Um, there's still a lot of I like autobiography. I just want to talk about autobiography. But I don't know if an audience, I feel some obligation, I guess. I don't, because I don't know who a lot of the audience for this is, but I do know that some people, maybe more people used to, I don't know. Like, maybe I've turned certain people off by talking about them personally in it. I know I used to have people watch, like Alabaster Rum used to watch, and I think, I think people do click it and sort of explore it. And so I don't want to turn people off or sound like I'm like, talking shit about them behind their back or something on my live stream. So I do feel like probably the people that I'm connecting with who are watching the live stream are people who in the immediate community from the open mic, from readings. And so to some degree I do use it as like an organizational platform to discuss strategy, philosophy. It's a classroom, explaining ideas behind what we're doing with the open mic or, performance or what the next thing should be. Or to me, it is almost like being like a military general. We want to go here. We've got a campaign. It's like the Beatles conquered America. Well, when they conquered America, it's like they sold a bunch of records. They went everywhere. They played gigs everywhere. The knights, they took their swords and they played their instruments. And so going to Long Island, going to, other places, reading poetry, other open mics, other crowds, other scenes, doing comedy, doing whatever you can, getting on stage as much as possible. It's it's easy to break that momentum and that rhythm if you're not totally dedicated. I have a lot of things I'm juggling, and I want to be more committed, but I do feel a little bit cut off at the knees. I could do a lot more. And I don't know. Time is running out. Maybe I'm being a little paranoid. I don't know where this election is going to leave us. You know, I hate to say it, but I'm for RFK. I will probably vote for RFK Jr. if he makes it that far, to be honest. What the fuck? Why not? Why the fuck not? But I hope that Biden gets reelected, probably. That's probably the best case scenario. I mean, there's a lot of, like I'm saying, all these economic things that I'm complaining about. These are the things that don't seem like they're getting addressed. The hyper wealth inequality, the cost. Now Wendy's going to have surge pricing. McDonald's is going to have, it's like very expensive now. My guess behind the strategy of this is just like, you know, it's a drive-through. Most people in America, there's a lot of people that won't eat anything that's not from a drive-through. So those people, maybe they just do have them kind of by the balls. Maybe it's an aging crowd or something. They don't know any better, and they just kind of accept things are more expensive. But maybe this is a dumb guess, but my guess would be it's the drive-through. It's like people don't want to get out of their cars. So, yeah, I'll pay $15 for McDonald's, or I'll pay surge pricing at fucking Wendy's. This is like the problem with like the indoctrination of people with like hyper competitive, hyper capitalist, propaganda for the last 30, 40 fucking years. Ayn Rand and all these reality shows and shit. The Apprentice is like, now we accept things like surge pricing. Like, yeah, this is reason. It's just that's the market. It's more people are demanding a junior bacon cheeseburger and a frosty at 5 p.m. than they are at, or than they are at 2 p.m. And if you come in at 1 a.m., of course we're going to charge you $5 for a chicken nuggets. Because we know we've got you by the balls. It's just a hostile society. We're just in a hostile, bitter. We got to fight for everything. We got to tough it out. We got to accept lack. This is what I meant by WWF being a model. They want us to accept hardship, working injured, playing injured, getting thrown off a Hell in a Cell, getting broken in half, bleeding. That's the glory. Reaching for, but like Jeff Hardy, giving your body for those moments of transcendent glory that live on tape forever, that live as a part of the WWE library forever. That's what it's all about. It's just about getting good video. In the movie of me, it's all about just the highlight reel. Okay, so I don't know. We got to go downstairs and move this shit, I guess. I don't know. I thought poetry was an alternative. I don't know if there is going to be. I think that the civilization is just going to have to like beat itself out or something. It's going to have to knock itself out. I thought the pandemic was good. The pandemic was shut everything down, let the environment regrow, send everybody money, beautiful, perfect. Keep the venues open, keep the art galleries, the libraries open, keep the bookstores open, keep the shops open, keep the garages, whatever, keep the hobbies. Shut down the jobs. Shut down the bullshit. Shut down the slavery. Shut down the wage slavery. Give the essential workers, like, make them millionaires. we've got all the solutions. I don't know. That's what this is about: spreading knowledge, spreading ideas, ingenuity, spirit of invention. Talking about your ideas, having ideas. That's one of the things that I think is great about Larry David. He's constantly having ideas. He just writes into the show. He's in the fucking producers. You know, or like Kramerica. They're entrepreneurs in the show. It's like he has an idea for a bra for men. The bro, the man's ear. It's like the characters have this kind of spirit of invention. He has that kind of spirit of invention. Why can't you do it this way? Why do you have to do it that way? Why not a cologne that smells like the beach? Vandelay Industries, that kind of stuff. His characters are constantly. That was a model. That's still a model for like. We can participate in the world. We can make it better. Our ideas are just as valid as anybody's. Now we have an outlet to share our ideas through the internet, through streaming, through TikTok moments, through stories, through whatever. I don't know. I don't worry about fucking AI that much, or fucking, you know, how many people make a living as artists to begin with? In the capitalist fucking thunderdome that we live in, there's very few people that make it, and the ones that do, a lot of them become astronomically wealthy, you know, and then the rest of us get nothing. To me, it's like there should. I would love to make it. I would love to be one of those people, but I'm also happy to just be an artist. And if there was a way to sustain, like, all of the beautiful people who make work at the open mics, people who make books, people who paint, people who put their chapbooks out, publish their own stuff, host readings, make wonderful films for Instagram or whatever it is. Whatever we can do to sustain that. And, that's kind of what the pandemic was, it felt like. The pandemic was a demonstration of here's what a universal basic income could do. It could allow all these people to start podcasts, buy microphones, buy cameras, start making videos on Instagram, start making videos on TikTok, start, a vlog, express yourself, go to open mics. I bought a printer, I started publishing my own books. It enabled a lot of people to use their own creativity, to start their own kind of business. There should be that, whatever we can do to foster that. That's what I'm interested in. Create a culture. That's what a culture is. It's not just the super predators eating every other goddamn thing. It's like a variety of plenty. It's a multitude. It's a whole ecosystem of difference. That's what a culture is, and everybody gets their own little mushroom or whatever. Everybody gets their own little shop. They get to sell their goods. They live behind the shop. They live above the shop. I sell poetry books. I sell magic. Yeah. We are so disempowered. They don't want anybody to succeed. It's all about these mega monopolies. The same five whatever corporations own everything. It's bad for human life. Everything is becoming flattened. That's what's interesting about people like Richard Lewis is he's so distinct. He's so memorable. The comedians now, it's like they all are so basic. They just look basic. Even when they do their specials or whatever, it's like they wear this baseball jacket and like sneakers. It's like they're totally nondescript. They're non-distinct. They're homogenized. They're flattened. I think the internet does kind of reward. I don't know. As weird as that sounds, I mean, did mass media have more of a fucking? It had an eye for talent, you know. Even though there was a lowest common denominator aspect, there's something about the algorithm that just like, why does it reward? If you're able to become one of those people who's able to just like, you know, become Jordan Peterson somehow, or Stavros was mentioned, or you know, Bert Kreischer, or Rogan, obviously, or you know, there's certain people that just like the algorithm. They've snowballed so much that they've just become like a character in our lives, you know, across all the platforms. And the goal is to like become one of those people or something somehow, but it doesn't seem. I don't know. I mean, it doesn't seem like it rewards guys like me, guys who look like me. I don't know. It rewards like people that look like the audience, you know. And mediocrity and sameness and you know not. I don't know, man. It's like there is a homogeneity and like a jerk right word that's happening that people aren't even realizing. Like I don't know. It feels like politics in this country. It's almost like not even worth talking about. Like it's a lost cause, and but also that's kind of scary because what is going to happen? You know, are we just going to have to subsist under this system? Because it does feel like it's going to probably change. It can't go on much longer. I don't think the way the Supreme Court is, the way that it just keeps bouncing back and forth between these two parties that are just like killing us, selling us out, and killing us basically. It's like it can't go on like this. And so you know, negotiating the finer points of the American government, it just doesn't seem like there's any point anymore. And we did enter this Aquarius and Pluto, and so there could be another revolution. The scary part is like what is going to be put in. You know, is it going to be something better or is it going to be something worse? Because you know, even in tech world, it does not. It feels like they have the opposite of our best interests at heart. You know, it's not the 80s or the 90s in Silicon Valley where there was some kind of, you know, John Perry Barlow fucking utopian hippie sort of libertarian whatever thing going on, psychedelicized, a human. You know, the network, the internet has been bought and paid for by these huge providers and things, and the big five or whatever the fuck they are, and they want to own all of it. They want you on their sites. They don't want you anywhere else. And you know, it feels like we need like a new Magna Carta or something. Like we're human beings. We can do whatever we want. You know, we can change our destiny. You know, we could. You know, there needs to be like some kind of conceptualization of just like how we, you know, there was the age of enlightenment or whatever. I think, therefore I am. You know, there needs to be like a change in perspective or something about just like how we You know, like I said, America causes us to think in this very like me way. Like as long as I'm doing okay in the competitive, capitalist free market, fuck everybody else. That's capitalism. There's winners and losers. It just feels like we need a new sense of group responsibility, mutual respect for life. It just feels like people do not have a regard for life anymore. There's no dignity. The way that people talk about the migrants or people at the border, it was saying that there's these militia border people in Texas that that just shoot people at the border. They like hunt people at the border. It's like that's how dehumanized these people are. There's a lot of that in our society. There's a lot of self centered, self bolstering, because we are put in this competition where we have to beat everybody else. We got to be, cooler, more successful, hotter, richer, more followers, traveling more, being around cooler people, influencing, you know, and like being an artist is bound up in that now. It's like, I guess, however good you are at art is how cool you are to some degree. But that's coupled with like how sexually attractive you are as well, and how you can kind of parlay that into the market of the game, whatever game it is you're playing. I don't know. It just feels like there's no future, right? And it's closing in on us. Uh, so what do we do? How am I going to provide for my family? How am I going to do anything in my life? How am I going to, what am I eventually going to do? How am I going to make a living? Am I ever going to make a living, really? And what's that going to mean? Am I going to be able to take care of people in my family? Am I ever going to be able to have a family? Does the bloodline can't stop here. My DNA needs to go on for the good of, something. I don't know. I'm just distracted by TikTok. I should be reading. I should be writing. I should be working on something important. Everything's kind of frittered away in these little posts, content, 5-minute open mics, vlogs, notebook poems, zines. How to gather the powers for a. But there's a point that's being made about that. Is like, why not have a looser. We can be interesting and as entertaining as profound in a looser structure. Overworking something doesn't necessarily make it more effective or better. You can have a deeper, wiser experience, possibly through something like this. Just the journey of going through a 2 hour long talk and seeing the struggle of it and trying to make it come together. And, I mean, I don't know. Maybe you'll take some interesting points away with you from this about DiCaprio or, positive masculine role models. Stone Cold Steve Austin, LeBron James. He went back to Cleveland, even though he did the announcement or whatever the fuck it was called. A moment that will live in sports infamy. He kind of redeemed himself. He kind of wiped the slate, actually, when he went back and when he won. Shaq was in Cleveland. I mean, that in and of itself is pretty incredible. The fact that Shaq ever played for the Cleveland Cavs is, like, unbelievable. So, good for him. Now he's in LA. Why not the Knicks? Come play for the Knicks. Is it too late? Well, okay, this is another thing maybe I should talk about. Is New York uncool? Has it become uncool? I mean, obviously, like, particularly Manhattan. I'm, like, wondering, is Manhattan uncool? But just in general, is it uncool now? And if I just don't think there's any alternatives. Part of the reason why I talk about this economic situations so much is just like where there's no alternative. There used to be places in the country you could go, San Francisco, New York, whatever. That's where the scene was. You could live cheap, be an artist, be a counterculture. You could actually have kind of a way of life in North Beach. I mean, those days are long gone, but what do? We just do it online. We do it in Broadway Junction, East New York, Midwood, New Jersey, Columbus. Where do you go? Panama City Beach, Florida, Austin. Where the fuck do you go? Santa Fe, Seattle, Kansas City, LA, Oakland. Where the fuck do you go? Mexico City, a houseboat, some goddamn place. Barcelona, apparently Spain or Porto are cheap and nice. Berlin, obviously is sort of a famous place to go. So yeah, I don't know. I've just been kind of helplessly living at the mercy of New York City for, the last 15 years. And seeing it get corporate and banal is like, this is what I'm saying. It's like heartbreaking. That's why I speak against it so much. But it's like, people, it's a battle that's already lost. People don't even know what was lost. They don't even know what was lost. And so that was a place for human life, for human expression, for cultural expression, for kind of a, cross pollination of cultures, people from all over the world, immigrants. It still is, but uh, the physical space itself is like way more banal. The murals are ugly. It's all just like corporate Popeye's Chicken, Taco Bell, Chipotle, CVS, Walgreens, whatever. It's a suburb, basically. And so who's fighting against that? This is like our life, right? The ability to start a business, going shopping and finding interesting stuff, exploring the world in that way. Brick and mortar is dying. Everybody has online everything now, Instagram. And this is what I mean by the atrophy of the real world. It's like they want us to sort of migrate. It is the Matrix. I mean, as boring and lame as that sounds, it's like it's a lot cheaper to give people an infinite feeling of abundance online, where like literally you don't need material goods, than it is in real life, probably, where actually you have to make things. You know, you still got to feed yourself. You still got to have a place to live, etc., etc., clothes. But, you know, online, it's just like infinite nothing. But you're just in the fucking Apple VR headset or whatever, and you keep watching TikTok videos. Oh, here's another SNL. I mean, it's interesting seeing the whole cross section of all the years. Jimmy Fallon, Horatio Sands, Cherry O'Terry, Will Ferrell, Chris Elliott, Janine Garofalo. Ellen Claghorn was great. I loved Ellen Claghorn. Melanie Hutzel, Terry Sweeney, Denitra Vance. Randy Quaid was on Saturday Night Live. There was this really interesting episode directed by Francis Ford Coppola. See, they've done some interesting things within the kind of repeating framework of that show. You know, they get as much out of it as possible. Uh, but I don't know. We're trying to organize. We're trying to get people to think different. I get this doesn't really work. I guess we're all just online like venting. You know, every little video, every little fucking post or whatever poem. It's just like a little. It's just like I'm letting off a little steam, so the pressure doesn't build up too much. But it's like I don't know. I'd like to believe that this stuff carries and you know it does get people more and more active, I think, and that's the important thing. It's just like people turning on and connecting with each other. You know, you can expound change exponentially if you provide a place for people to connect with each other and carry it and collaborate and create things with each other on their own. You know, I can do what I can do, but then you introduce people, you give them a place to have a conversation, they go off, boom. Now they've created a whole other world. You know, they might create an open mic, they might create a, you know, band or whatever it is, you know, they might start publishing a thing. And so it's really about activating people, get people active, giving people a sense of agency, and giving a people a path to realize things in the world. You know, there's a difference between, you know, and great for people who want to be writers. I'm not against that either. Or even people that aren't writers that are good at writing, you know, but there's a difference when you actually do it and read in front of people, publish stuff, have other people read your stuff. You know, there is something that that's real influence. You know, for as much as this fucking term influencers gets to me, the real influencer is the algorithm. The algorithm is the fucking thing doing the influencing. It influences what gets seen, not the other way around. You know, there's a reason why everybody's got Instagram face and shit like that. It's because the algorithm influences what gets seen. That's the real fucking influence. It's not because those people are interesting. It's just because that's what's won in the visibility of the algorithm, you know, the whatever the fuck. But to me, like real, you can see influence happen in face to face. And as much as I, you know, as much as I love TikTok or being in the virtual space as well, I would almost just get rid of my phone. You know, if I could focus just on like in person interactions without having to do any kind of virtual anything ever, that wouldn't necessarily be so bad, honestly. And to some degree, I think there's something to be said for just doing in person. If you can, I mean, it's kind of a losing battle because everything is digital, everything is online, everything is like a decision that's been made in that way. It's like your physical presence is, I don't know, part of that or something. Um, what the fuck was I blathering about? I'm gonna wrap it up here. I gotta go do this other thing. But thank you for watching. Like and subscribe. I know this has been all over the place. Takes a while to get. Got some good things in there. Discipline. Okay, doing it every day, repeating, consistency. There's something to be said for that. Consistency, showing up to your commitments. The show must go on. That's the cardinal rule of show business, right? The show must go on. I think that's good for people in show business. It keeps us alive. No matter how things get, we get on stage and we can still pull it together. Oh man, I can't tell this story right now. The whole week of the musical in high school, I had like a stomach virus, so I was sick the whole week. And then literally the day of, I was puking. It was bad, and I had real bad. And so the director was like, "Go to the drinking fountain and drink, count to 10. And I drink gulps of water." She's like, "You're dehydrated." And so I drank this water, and it did help me feel better immediately. Actually, I was really dehydrated. But the show went on. I did the show anyway, even though I was had the stomach virus and shit. So anyway, I don't know. We're just trying to turn other people on. Okay, here's another thing I want to talk about. Okay, the CIA, I see this a lot in the comment section. I see the CIA funded the New York art scene in the 60s. The CIA funded abstract expressionism. Most of the New York school was in the Navy. Frank O'Hara was in the Navy. James Schuyler was in the Navy. Kenneth Koch was in the shit. They could all be deep state. They could all be ops. Olson was in the fucking... he was in the OSS. He was an op. There's no question. Olson, literally worked in the Roosevelt administration high up. Not high up, but I think he worked for the government during World War II in, a big way. Was he an op? Was he a plant? This is, the thinking now. Everybody's like, oh, my God. The CIA... the idea being... with abstract expressionism, sort of with this, what they're talking about, they want to dissociate the image totally. They don't want there really to be any storytelling in the image. They don't want there to be any kind of figurative history. If you look at a lot of the art, right, from the 30s or the 20s, it's all these big murals, historical realism. It's like Union shit. A lot of it's very socialist. It's big, it's a big mural of some kind of fucking Union showdown or something, some kind of, they're trying to break a strike, so they made a painting about it. There is something to be said for that, definitely. Abstract expressionism is sort of non-political in that way, and it's part of the point that was being made. It doesn't leave a historical, a lot of art is sort of like a document of the time. It's a painting was the best way to get a visual record, really, of what was going on until, about 100, 200 years ago. Whereas abstract expressionism, right, is not giving you a visual record of anything real. It's abstract. That's true. The idea is Jackson Pollock, I guess, was sort of the guy that they took and said, we're going to put this guy in Life magazine and all this and make him famous. And he sucks, right? Obviously these paintings are shit. A child could do Jackson Pollock, blah, blah, blah. That's part of, which I think, where does that leave Frank O'Hara? Because Frank O'Hara thought Jackson Pollock was the summit of fucking art, And I don't know. I have a lot of respect and a lot of, I think it's more of a feel-based thing. Abstract expressionism. I like that stuff. Maybe I'm the ultimate snob. I mean, this is a whole other thing. I'm feeling pressure to get off. But one of the main points of this book is the poets, the symbolists, Rimbaud, whoever, Mallarmé, they found a way to divorce the signifier from the signified, the word from its meaning, which is a technique that finance copied. Finance figured out a way to divorce the wealth, the money, from use value, any kind of like, basically any, it just abstracted it into its own entity, really. In the same way that the poets divorced the word from its meaning. I think you get some cool effects. I don't know. It's made me sort of question. It's like, is everything I do some kind of like ultra capitalist free market bullshit? Actually, is it the ultimate privilege, right, to be abstract expressionist? Is it just like a CIA? I don't know. I don't. I find a lot of beauty in it. I do find there's a lot of freedom in it. I do find it like represents uh, and it a lot of the principles. I think it's more interesting to look at a Jackson Pollock painting than like a Jasper Johns. Or who is it that does those those flags and shit. um I mean, where does that leave Warhol? Because that's figurative. Warhol stuff is figurative. I would say Warhol is like a celebration of capitalism and branding and promotional. But I mean, if you look at the New York School kind of hinges on those things, actually, in a lot of ways. You know, the first generation of New York School, a lot of what they did was abstract, and Paul, Ashbery or Frank O'Hara, or even you could look at those as action paintings to some degree. Um, but then there is this pivot to kind of in the pop art thing, right? And that becomes more uh, prevalent in kind of the second generation and blah blah blah. So where does that leave them? Are they fucking CIA ops? For me, for my own purposes, I just find abstraction has sort of a dreamlike quality, a beauty, an indecipherability. There's something about it that it leaves. The idea with art is you're supposed to inspire people to their own ideas, and maybe that is narcissistic. Maybe I just like Jackson Pollock because it's just another thing that I get to think about and say smart things about. But to me, a Jackson Pollock is like infinite fountain of inspiration because you can always see new things in it and come up with it. Generative, right? It's like having a fucking spring or something. Whereas a figurative painting, it's more in a box, I would say. There's more of a limitation about possible meanings, and it's sort of probably going to be expressly. I mean, there might be mystery in it. It might be sort of an infinite painting, an image, but um, to me, it's another register. You can shift into abstract and back and forth, and that's true of experience. Experience is not all figurative. It's not all waking. It's not all. You don't always know what's going on. There can be fun in things that are beyond your understanding, and so uh, I haven't read that much about fucking you know the CIA is responsible for abstract expressionism. To me, I mean, I'm a mark for New York school and just New York artists, I guess. But I like a lot of that work. I like Franz Klein. Uh, Jazz is very abstract expressionist. The beats, I think, are very abstract expressionist. You know, maybe not abstract as much, but expressionist, more expressionist. But I'm thinking about, well, what's the solution to this? We've abstracted wealth from objects or time. We've abstracted words from meaning. What do we do with words? What do we do with it? What is poetry now? You know, to me, my poetry reflects like a TikTok experience. Anything could pop up, anything could get interrupted. All these different things are being thrown at you from all these different kind of genres and angles, and scripted content, news, documentary, homemade shit, somebody in their bedroom, you know, skits, movie clips, music videos, political fucking essay, diatribe, blah, et cetera, et cetera. B-roll, vibes, you know. To me, it's like I want to reconnect. My life is, I'm making it into like an object, a physical object, by turning it into books, by turning it into media. That's the best we can do, I think. We do have like very limited physical resources or capability. But, we're doing the best we can with what we have. And these things are, the mistake is to think that they don't have monetary value, or that they're not labor, they're not work, like a poem or a thought or a routine, a bit. These things are shaped, a song, they have to be. It's just like a chair, it's got to be, you got to play it right. If you don't measure it right, it's lopsided and you'll fall over. If your song, if you don't play it right, if you play the wrong speed and it comes out all fucked up. And it's not functional, right? So words are no different, right? Prose, essays, poetry, it's all got to be properly formatted according to principles, whatever. All right, so anyway, thank you for watching. We're making a difference. We're trying to make a difference. Real influence. I think real influence is a contagious enthusiasm. It's word of mouth, amongst people. And so we're trying to create an enthusiasm for experience, for art, for people taking their art into their own hands, for self-realization as artists. To me, the open mic is the best way to get started on the road to self-realization as an artist, as a performer. If you want to be a writer, performer, it's just a great way to get started. And there's something that's a little bit more political and free speech and intellectual about the open mic. The open mic is like a coffee house thing. It's a poetry thing. It's the news. It's cabaret. It's performance art. It's spoken word. It's a live stream, and it's a vaudeville. So who knows how much longer as human beings, if we annihilate the physical reality, things could end pretty quick. And it seems like that's what we're on track to do. I just don't know, why don't we change this? Why don't people change their lives? Why don't we hold the leaders accountable? Just get rid of them. Get rid of the leaders. We want to make our own fucking decisions now. We there needs to be wealth redistribution. People need places to live. less work, more quality of living, more free time, more time with your family and friends, more self betterment time, learn, learn, travel, all of that, There's no sense in working ourselves to death anymore. All right, well, anyway, thanks for watching. Keep reading, get this book, keep writing, keep your flame on fire, keep hope alive. It's not too late. It's not over yet. We're still alive. We're still, relatively good shape. If I was a used car, I'd probably be like, $2,000 now. A few years ago, I probably would have been like 6 or 8, but now I'm like a $2,000 used car. But it's not over yet, okay? I'll be a classic in no time. Thank you for watching. We'll talk soon. I'll be back on soon. I don't know, God willing. Just trying to spread the truth, trying to get momentum out there and inspire people. All right. We got to do it IRL, face-to-face. No one's watching, no likes. But I didn't feel... Maybe it's because, I don't know. Did I get shadow banned? I said too much truth. All right. It happens. It happens every time. Rest in peace, Richard. We love you, Richard. But he never saw my career.